100,000 people. That's how many people leave Islam every single year in America. And half of them are young, between 18 and 28. Pew Research tells us what reasons people give for leaving Islam, but it doesn't explain the why. So instead of sitting around and reading statistics, I decided to actually ask someone who lived it.
The reasons listed in the research paper tell us what? Like almost 20% of Muslims don't like or believe in religion or even God? But then they don't tell us why. What led to the reasons listed here? Because someone doesn't just wake up one morning and say, I don't believe anymore. That kind of shift happens slowly, a couple of months to some years. There's layers to it. Family, environment, education, culture. It's not just something that happens overnight. Honestly, it starts at home. Because if a child grows up just hearing Islam, but never really understanding it, it becomes more of a label than a belief. They might know the rituals, how to pray, how to fast, but they don't always know the meaning behind it. And if faith doesn't feel real or personal, it's hard for it to last.
Many young Muslims are told what to do. Pray, fast, wear hijab, but they're rarely told why. Without understanding the wisdom of these acts, religion starts to feel like a checklist instead of a connection with Allah.
Teaching about Islam is just one thing, but it's just as important to explain the whys. If you tell your kids to pray or your daughters to wear the hijab, you have to explain the why. You can't just say, because God said so. That doesn't work on kids. Kids don't care what God said, and they want to know why God said what He said. Why does Allah ask for us to pray 5 times a day? Why does He ask us to dress modestly? Because for kids, it's really about what's in it for me? Why should I do it? Neglect also plays a huge role in how religious someone turns out. If parents don't really hold religion as a priority, it's harder for the kids to value it too. When Islam isn't just something lived or talked about at home, it becomes very easy to grow up detached from it. Religion just never really becomes a part of your identity. And if faith is not built up from the start, even small doubts later on can easily shake it. Now, if we look at another reason from the research paper, don't like or agree with the teachings of Islam, that often go back to neglected as well. Let's say a young person asks why hijab is required. If parents and teachers give a generic response, like because Islam says so, the person is left with no real understanding and no actual attachment to the lesson. Then they might assume Islamic rulings are unfair or oppressive, and so they might end up saying they don't like or agree with the teachings of Islam. This is a result of neglect on the part of the parents, teachers, or religious figures in the community. If they don't take the time to answer questions properly, kids are going to look for answers elsewhere. And elsewhere, those answers might sound more appealing, but they can also lead them further away from the fold of Islam. And in today's time with social media, this has become so much easier.
Think about it. If someone has a doubt or a question about Islam, all they have to do is go online and ask. Within seconds, they'll find the entire communities of people who have the same doubts, and many of them aren't looking to find the truth, but to confirm their disbelief. So instead of learning from someone that's knowledgeable, people start seeking answers that feel right instead of answers that are right. And that's dangerous because appealing answers aren't always true ones.
All a kid really has to do is post a question online, maybe on Reddit or on any discussion forum. And within minutes, you'll have hundreds of thousands of people confirming their doubts. It's your job as a parent or a religious figure to make sure that if someone comes to you with doubts or questions about Islam, that you clear their doubt and questions. Because if you don't, someone else will. And someone else might play a large enough influence to convince them to abandon their faith. This actually ties into another reason listed in the research paper: became more educated. Education is important. In fact, it's ibadah, it's worship. The Prophet, peace be upon him, has told us seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim. We're encouraged to learn, not just about religion, but also the world around us. But somehow, education today has begun to distance many people from God, even though it was meant to do the opposite. When we study science, the complexity of the universe, the precision of nature, that should be a moment of reflection, not rejection. Allah tells us in Surah Al-Imran, verses 190 to 191, "Indeed, in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the alteration of the night and day are signs of those understanding. These signs are meant to draw us closer to Allah, not distance us from Him." But somewhere along the lines, science began to distance people from faith and God.
This is something we see a lot today. In the past, people used to turn to religion to answer some of life's biggest questions. Why are we here? What's our purpose? What's the meaning of life? But now, we turn to science for everything. And don't get me wrong, science gives us the how. It tells us how things work, but it can never tell us why they exist in the first place. The problem is, in modern education, the idea of God is often seen as unnecessary. In some academic circles, faith is treated like a weakness, as if believing in God makes you less rational. So instead of using science to appreciate God's creation, people start using it to push Him away.
Real knowledge should make you humble, not arrogant. The more you learn, the more you should realize how much you don't know and how perfect Allah's design really is. Another thing we need to be mindful of is how we teach and model Islam for our children. We have to be kind and lenient, not harsh and strict. The more strict you are with your kids, the most likely they are to rebel, something psychologists refer to as reactance.
This is the textbook definition of reactance theory. But that's too complicated. Let me simplify it for you. Reactance theory, in simple terms, is when you're told you can't have or do something, and that restriction makes you want it even more.
People push back against rules they see as unfair or excessive. This is an attempt to prove they are in control of their own life, sometimes trying to force someone to do something that will make them do the exact opposite, even if it goes against their own best interest. But if you teach them with love, answer their questions with patience, and let them discover faith instead of forcing it, they're more likely to build a deeper and more meaningful connection with their religion. They won't just practice Islam because you said so, they'll do it because they believe in it. A good connection with the masjid and the Muslim community in general is also very, very important. Our masjids need to be places that welcome young Muslims, not push them away. We need programs, events, and discussions that attract the youth, spaces where they can connect, ask questions, and have a sense of belonging. When someone is a part of a community, when they feel seen, supported, and understood, it becomes much harder for them to drift away from Islam because they're already grounded. They have a foundation. They don't need to look elsewhere for belonging or meaning. They've already found it in their faith and with the people around them. As a community, we need to take the responsibility. If a young Muslim walks away from faith, it's often because we didn't make them feel welcome, or we didn't give them a space, to feel safe and explore. We have to be approachable. We need to check in on each other and remind one another that we care. If someone's struggling with their doubts or confusion, they should feel comfortable telling us, not afraid. We should be their first stop, not the internet. And especially for parents, your children need to see Islam as something beautiful, not something being forced upon them. If they only follow a religion out of fear, then something's gonna go wrong. We need to nurture love for Allah, not fear of punishment, because real guidance begins with compassion. All reasons listed in the research paper, loss of belief, doubt, confusion, they don't happen overnight. These things build slowly, over years. No one believes in God one day and then wakes up the next day and no longer believes in Him. It takes a lot to reach such a point. So, if we really want to protect faith, we have to start early. We have to build those bonds with Allah, with our children, and with each other, because they're broken beyond repair.